Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it looks like we got a bit of a short holdover week, and it's Billboard BREAKDOwn.
I don't remember.
You know, I feel like it's kind of a jinx to even imply it, but man, the Hot 100 has felt slow in 2025. Some of that might just be the hangover from last year, where the majority of hits have had insane longevity into this year, but I think some of it also ties into the album bombs just not having as much staying power, or if they do linger, they leave maybe a song or two and then just move on. Very little in the way of definitive chart-topping hits. Now, it's hard to complain that much. I like cuts from G and X sticking around as much as anyone, but if things are starting to feel a little slow or stagnant, especially in weeks that feel like a holding pattern in between album bombs like this one, well, yeah, that's why. And nowhere does that feel more apparent than in our top 10, where for another week, Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA held the number one. Not all that surprising either. It's getting shipped to radio aggressively, sales are up, and it's still dominant on streaming, and that allows it to hold over handily Die With a Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars at number 2, which finally clinched that top spot on the radio with better sales, and while it is kinda slipping on streaming for now, I can imagine with Gaga's album bomb likely coming next week, it'll probably have a real shot to get back at number 1. Then we got Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar holding at number 3. Chalk this up to great sales and streaming, even as the radio is really dumping it. Followed by TV Off by Kendrick Lamar featuring Lefty Gunplay at number 4, which has radio momentum and rock solid streaming. I can imagine if it weathers the album bomb, it'll probably wind up getting even higher in the weeks to come. So it comfortably held over a bar song Tipsy by Shabuzi at number 5, which finally lost the top spot on the radio, as despite a decent-ish streaming week, it's now slipping into decline across the board. Followed by Apartment by Rose and Bruno Mars at number 6, which despite a modest streaming recovery, is now firmly on the downswing on the radio. And yet it still held over Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish at number 7, which despite streaming holding steady, the radio is dropping, in comparison with Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan at number 8, which had a tremendous sales week in order to boost the streaming and the radio that are rapidly closing the margins. This is gonna go up and pretty fast. And hell, at least for now, it kept it over Lose Control by Teddy Swims at number 9, which is still holding on thanks to a good streaming week to prop up the fading radio. And then we have the one new re-entry in the top 10, the one movement at all, Nokia by Drake. Unfortunately, this is becoming close to a viral phenomenon, which is why its streaming and sales are so high despite it being crap, but the radio has been very slow to get on board. It's gonna be a test to see how much the mainstream radio charts really get behind Drake, or how coordinated all of his efforts are, because Gimme a Hug seems to be the song with the radio push right now, and I'm not sure it's working. Now that naturally takes us to our losers and dropouts, where in the latter group you can chalk up to lesser songs from previous album bombs from Drake and Tate McRae fading away, with the biggest song actually falling off the charts being Hey Now by Kendrick Lamar featuring Doechii. And while that's also the story for our losers, there's just not many of them overall. From Drake we have the aforementioned Gimme a Hug down at 38, and with Party Next Door we got CN Tower at 80 and Something About You at 89, with Deeper from just Party Next Door at 98. Then from Tate McRae we have Dear God at 71, I Know Love with the Kid Laroi at 73, Purple Lace Bra at 75, and Miss Possessive at 26. The only song outside of that is Call Me When You Break Up by Selena Gomez, Benny Blanco, and Gracie Abrams that debuted last week and then fell sharply to 72. That collab album is giving me some rough vibes, it's all I'm saying there. So okay, what's filling in the gaps here? Well, when we take a look at our returns and our gains, there are a ton in the former group, handily more than any new arrivals this week, mostly from songs that were clinging to the very bottom of the charts of the bubbling under and can climb in their absence. Hard Fought Hallelujah by Brandon Lake is back yet again at 78, Burning Down by Alex Warren at 91, Push to Start by Tyla at 93, Tuboda by Oscar Maiden and Fuerza Regida refuses to go away at 94, Born Again by Lisa, Doja Cat, and Ray at 96 thanks to Lisa's album impact, Holy Smokes by Bailey Zimmerman climbing back to 99, and Seven Dias by Gabito Ballesteros and Tito Double P at 100. The only slight trend is a mild resurgence for Giveon of all people, with Are You Even Real with Teddy Swims back at 95 and 20s up to 97. Now for our gains, Again, they feel a little bit scattered, with songs like Mi Hallo by Fuerza Regida and Grupo Frontera bouncing off the return to 65, Heart of a Woman by Summer Walker at 70, and No Pull by Don Toliver at 84. But the real story is probably the rebound of country music. When album bombs fall out, the stable Nashville radio tends to ensure that songs will stick around in the meantime. So with that coming from the bottom up, Weren't for the Wind by Ella Langley bounced up off the return to 88, as did Backseat Driver by Kane Brown up to 82, Am I OK by Megan Maroney moved up big to 67, and then two continued gains with I'm Gonna Love You by Cody Johnson and Carrie Underwood at 39, and I Never Lie by Zach Top at 36. I mean, I'm gonna take a small win with Zach Top at least. That song is really nice, and it is set to make a year-end list. That's a great sign. But now we have an extremely small list of new arrivals. Again, I'm sure as hell not complaining given my schedule on other channels. So let's get all this started with number 85, Tattoo by Tito Doechii. I'm really starting to wish that more of these regional Mexican songs that keep on charting sounded a bit more distinctive from each other, because if Tito Doechii appears to be on the come up with multiple charting hits on his own on the Hot 100, I really wish I could remember them a little bit better. Well, in any case, this is him ranting post-breakup that he kept the tattoo of his ex, but she got hers covered up, and now he's awash in drugs and booze amidst the brittle cascades of acoustic guitar that get oddly glossy with some synth touches and staccato blast of horn that actually drive more of the tune and sound a little less farty for once. They momentarily drop into a lo-fi filter on the second hook, but considering there is only one verse before that hook, which repeats twice, look, the song feels really thin and underdeveloped, and considering this subject matter feels pretty rote for Tito Doechii at this point, the only thing to really highlight is the horn line and his nasal exaggeration in his vocals. In other words, you're not missing that much. Next, number 56, Miss Whitman by Bhad Bhabie.
Straight out my ass, who got the upper hand? I see why you ain't got no friends, you miss all fuck your man. Your stepmom burned out while she took her sister second.
You know, even though it's a slow week, we don't have to do this shit. For those of you who mercifully don't know, Danielle Bregoli hasn't been on the Hot 100 since 2018 in a collab with Lil Yachty that also sucked. And since then, it's been a cavalcade of reality TV, singles that went nowhere, social media nonsense, OnlyFans, and a bunch of feuds that for the sake of everyone's time and brain matter, I'm not gonna recap. Unfortunately, way too many people still care about her and all of this, or at the very least are giving this rage bait way more attention than it deserves, which takes us to the beef that she has with one Alabama Barker, daughter of Travis Barker, tied to the Kardashians and who's an influencer in her own right. Apparently this has to do with Barker stealing Bhad Bhabie's ex. There were social media exchanges, she shot first, then Barker dropped her own diss track, and now Bhad Bhabie shot back with this, where some of the controversy also stems from her sampling Carnival by Kanye West and Ty Dolla $. There may have also been a Kanye verse on this at some point, but Kanye has claimed that leaked verse was AI, as if this whole nonsense hasn't been idiotic enough. So what we're left with is Bhad Bhabie going off on Alabama Barker over a beat that I have always hated, but is now pitch shifted a couple of times, with a lot of accusations of sleeping around, sex positive this song is not, getting kicked out of the Kardashian house for a really awful reason, jacking flows, getting sick from nicotine withdrawal, and getting an abortion. And while there are moments of passable wordplay, Bhad Bhabie's flat, dead-eyed white girl energy has no intensity or flavor to it. Sure, it's trashy, but it's not all that fun. It's not like she's doing anything interesting with it. None of the allegations she is making in this song feel compelling or worth caring about. The one thing I'll say for Bhad Bhabie is that she does very clearly want this fight, but put her against any semi-competent rapper, she's getting smoked. You all know that. You also know this is garbage. Do yourselves a favor, don't give this any more attention. Number 45, Anxiety by Sleepy Hallow featuring Doechii.
It's my anxiety.
Look, shit got me tripping. Fighting with my demons and my demons just winning. I feel like don't nobody ever feel how I feel. And I ain't never sober, baby girl, I get hot still.
Okay, so this is a bit of a mess to explain. The original Anxiety is a song that Doechii recorded in 2019 for her Coven music releases on YouTube by sampling Somebody That I Used to Know by Doechii and Kimbra, which Sleepy Hallow then sampled in 2023 to make this song, and then it suddenly went viral because people want more Doechii in 2025, and for some stupid reason won't get behind Nissan Altima. So Doechii then found the original version of the song, re-recorded it, and then released it separately. I'm not going to review that version here because there's a real shot it's going to chart next week, but in the meantime, this is the first time we've seen Sleepy Hallow on the charts since 2022, and the most we get is Doechii singing the hook and the sample chopped down to the bare bones of that bass line and the fragments of the guitar, which fits a little bit more of Sleepy Hallow's vibe. And you know, I gotta be honest, I think he's actually really sharp on these verses with his thicker baritone. The darker paranoia coats through drug abuse and violence and his own mental health struggles, where he just wants to check and get away from all the fame and then free his crew the Harriet way, which is a more conscious and a much more violent reference than I think many people will recognize. Even if his flow gets a little sloppier on the second verse, it kind of works for how haggard and downcast the song is. I'm not gonna say this is great. They really could have used a little more of that Doechii sample, and Doechii singing on the hook, it's not her best by a long shot. The re-recording is better, but it is a comeback I did not expect to land the way it did, so yeah, good stuff. And finally, 44, Sorry I'm Here for Someone Else by Benson Boone.
And I really hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, we're not getting rid of Benson Boone that easily. Hell, Beautiful Things is still charting right now, just outside the top 10. It's gonna prompt interest in whatever the hell he's got coming up next. And okay, let me start by saying I appreciate that there's a little bit more going on within this song. Benson Boone goes to a diner to wait for his new girlfriend who's running a little bit late. He runs into his ex working at said diner, and even despite some feelings rekindling, he has to try and put them aside, and then ultimately doesn't as he runs back into the kitchen and leaves his new girl for his ex, as it's very clear that it was breaking said ex's heart in the reunion and they were still very much in love. Not a lot of care for the new girl, and all this is set up to reinforce Benson Boone as a guy who's kind of indecisive but desired by two women. One of those subtle ego trip moments that had me roll my eyes. But no, that's not the issue I have with this song. No, it's that from the synth backdrop that switches into the crackling bass synths to more gloss around the scrappier vocal pickups and the backing vocals, to the choppier guitars, to the dramatic throwback diner romanticism. I mean, come on. This is a Bleachers song, maybe by way of something that Niall Horan could have dropped 5 years ago. And yeah, you know what, that's fine. I wish that Bleachers, and Niall Horan for that matter, would have gotten that success, but I think it's a long-running issue of label management and promotion. And Benson Boone is a better singer than Jack Antonoff, and his producer actually brings a little bit more guitar muscle than Antonoff normally has. But when you realize this song kind of does nothing after a very abbreviated bridge, I also recognize we're getting the cliff notes of the formula, not the genuine article. So okay, probably the most I've liked a song from Benson Boone, but that's not saying much. It's okay, at best. But that's our week. Best and worst, they fall out fast. Anxiety by Sleepy Hallow and Doechii's taking the top spot, and Miss Whitman by Bhad Bhabie just runs away with the worst of the week. Yeesh. Next week, well, Lady Gaga will probably get that album bomb for Mayhem alongside Jenny, possibly seeing some crossover. We'll have to see more, but until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.